So, what are some purchasing game changers that we're seeing today and that we may see tomorrow? So, we have this thing called additive manufacturing. You might better understand this as 3D printing. We're just adding material and then it's basically just printing layer by layer. I mean, they've printed houses, they've printed materials that go into a human body. I mean, it's amazing what additive manufacturing can do. So what can we expect to see? Well, new product development, especially when it comes to prototyping, is a game changer here. We can do a prototype and see exactly what we're trying to make. Now, it may not be a functioning prototype, but we can see physical size other than just seeing what's on a plan. We can see, okay, how do these pieces fit together? We can see all this kind of stuff. So new product development is just wide open when it comes to additive manufacturing. Spare parts. So if you don't have the part, well, you can just print it and then you'd have a fully functional part. Now, this might be a Band-Aid to put into a machine that will last just long enough until a proper part can arrive, or this can be a actual part that's going to last for years, just as good as the old one. Now, additive manufacturing, there's so many different types of, let's say, plastics, and then there's I've seen a concrete house be built with additive manufacturing, so concrete can be used. There's even metals that can be used, and you can make all these products. So when we reevaluate the make versus buy decision, if we can make it with 3D printing or additive manufacturing, that is huge. So we might be able to make things more in-house rather than buying them from another manufacturer. So what can we expect to see in this area? It's wide open. And I know that our department is going to be getting a 3D printer with the new building. So look forward to that, or come back and see that, because you may not be here by the time that new building's up, but come back and see that. Big data and predictive analytics. Well, how do these affect you? Well, customer profile, right? For example, if you use Facebook, well, every so often you're going to see an ad, and that ad is going to be relevant to based on what you saw on their website. Maybe you read a story about something, and that you read the whole story and you were on there for a while. So Facebook might use that data to give you an ad. But think about this also, loyalty cards. Every time you go to the store and you use the loyalty cards, everything that you purchased is associated with that card number, which if you registered the card, because now there's benefits and stuff, that card can give an idea of what you are. Same thing with credit cards. So if you use your credit card every day at Starbucks, that credit card company may sell that information, and now you will get maybe coffee advertisements or coffee coupons in the mail to a new coffee place. Who knows? But big data is huge. But there's also this predictive analytics. So they can predict what you might do based on your purchase history. So if you do a lot of travel, well, they might be recommending a new destination to you. So they're trying to predict where you might go next. So like if you have booked a ticket to Chicago, well, they might say, hey, why don't you go to Gino's Pizza? Gino's Pizza is a deep dish pizzeria in Chicago. Very good. I recommend you go. But they can predict that, and maybe you'll get an ad recommending that before your trip, and maybe a coupon if the company is offering coupons. But we can also see these hidden connections. These hidden connections might be that, okay, even though you might have nothing out there saying who your spouse is, they can make the connection because of your using the card in a similar pattern as somebody else. So they're looking at what is happening. They're trying to see what the implications are of that, and they're trying to predict what does that mean. For example, if you just all of a sudden started buying diapers, Well, does that mean you have a new member to your household? Or is that a one-off thing where you bought it for your neighbor because you were going out? Well, you might start getting stuff from Gerber life insurance, or Gerber food coupons, or even diaper coupons or baby formula samples. Yeah, all these things, they're because you bought a package of diapers. But what about material science? So carbon nanotube technology. They estimate that carbon nanotubes can be what can help us develop a space elevator. And if we can do that, that means we can transport things to basically to 0G into the orbit, so that way we don't have to use a rocket each time. It can just be sent up an elevator. Or graphene. Graphene is almost an indestructible material. So what else can you think of when it comes to material science? It's amazing. What's the next thing that's going to be out there? What about cybersecurity? We have cyber mischief. Then we have cyber theft, which we hear about all the time. And then cyber warfare, which is coming more and more. But how do these affect the supply chain? Especially if we're doing more and more of our supply chain electronically. So we need to be careful. So making sure that the IT department maybe has exactly what they need to do a good job for cybersecurity. Or making sure that you get them exactly what they want. So all these things can be positive and negative for us. But what about our relationships? Trust as governance. So we want to build trust, build chemistry, and build an organization. So when do you build trust between key suppliers? When do you make that decision? Well, we've talked about that in a previous topic. So we want to build that trust when we're integrating them. When we want them to be almost like a partner to our company. We need to trust them just like they need to trust us. So what about our supplier teams? So we can do supplier conferences, bring in our suppliers so we can recognize different suppliers and we can encourage faster learning. Or if we had different levels of suppliers, let's say a bronze, silver, and gold level suppliers. Well, the suppliers might strive to get to that gold level because if we think about it, the Olympics are based on those medals and no one wants to be second or third place. Everybody wants to be first place. And then we can develop supplier councils. So we can do best practices and implement it across the supply base. And then collaborative training. We want to make sure that our suppliers are developing so they can bring us better service and better quality products. So we may want to work with them because if we can develop them into be a better supplier, that's going to be better for us and we can grow as a company. Now, talent development. So what are you looking for to develop your supply chain skills? Well, I know you probably want a competitive salary and benefits. You want an engaging culture and atmosphere. That doesn't mean that it's a suit and tie type work environment. You might want something a little more relaxed. You want meaningful work that makes an impact. A lot of students nowadays want that enrichment from making a difference. And they want the career enrichment and progression. They want to know that if they work hard and do everything they should, that they're going to advance, right? You want some workplace flexibility. That might mean working from home. That might be working in the office a couple days of the week, working home, and then working at home for the other days. Could be you want to work in Florida at that location rather than working in Minnesota because you like warmer weather. So the location can make a difference for you. And you want strong coworkers. You don't want coworkers that are just like, whatever. You want some coworkers that actually make decisions that are dynamic. And one big thing is mentoring. If you don't know what mentoring is or never been mentored, you should look into it. So you can have someone more experienced help guide your development. And you can make greater strides faster because you have someone who's been there instead of you having to learn from the scratch. So we have environmental regulations out there. So big push now is the carbon footprint, reducing the carbon footprint. But there's also a push for more organic, more healthy or wholesome foods. Well, how do these facts affect the supply chain? So one of my classes, we worked with Seduxo, who does a lot of food service, and we worked with them to identify a formula to see how much each delivery gave as a carbon footprint. Because the goal is to reduce the carbon footprint of deliveries. So that's one aspect. Because who knows when that carbon footprint is going to be regulated, and that's going to impact companies. But if they get ahead of it now, it's going to be great. Organic farming. A lot of companies are trying to support organic farming. The USDA organic symbols on packaging is becoming more and more. Organic sections are larger in grocery stores. So there's a big push because people don't want all the chemicals in their foods anymore. So, how does this affect our supply chain? And then finally, we have protectionism. So we have a lot of people that used to be living on $1 a day and whatever equivalency that is in foreign currency in foreign parts of the world. But that has gone down by nearly 80%. So imagine that's creating a lot more discretionary income. So that's huge because now people can make the decisions on, let's say, going to Starbucks instead of just drinking water. They have the income where they can make those kind of decisions. Now, as a student, you may not be at that point right now, but you will be one day. And a lot of other countries are getting to this point, and they're moving forward. So it's amazing to know that what we're doing in supply chain, because if our supply chain is working effectively, we're reducing the cost of goods. We're saving money on transportation. We're being more efficient, and by being more efficient in our own companies, we can charge less for the product because we can still make the same margin, but just charge less. So we're still making as much profit. So that makes the end product to the consumer less, which means they can have more disposable income because they don't have to only spend money on the necessities. So when we're looking at this, what does that mean to you? So all these different things are game changers in our field. So what can we do to maybe continue this discretionary income growing, or the number of people that live on $1 a day or less, to get less people in that situation? So we improve the standard of living for people. What can we do? So all these game changers, you're going to see more in the future. But just remember that these game changers require us as supply chain professionals to figure out how to make things better. How do we use this technology or this new practice? So lifelong learning will definitely help us keep on the leading edge of this. So keep in mind and keep looking for these game changers because they're going to be huge in the supply chain world, especially in the next decade. So let's look at our scenario planning. It's a tool that we can use to help think about what could happen, what is happening, and how we're going to deal with that. So let's go ahead and move on to this tool of scenario planning.